All right, let's dive right in. Today we're talking about the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM. Now, if you're looking at CBAM and thinking it's just another reporting headache, well, you might be making a really dangerous mistake. We're going to explore how to flip that script to move from a simple compliance mindset to building a strategic operating model that can actually give you a serious competitive edge.
So let's start with what is probably the single most important idea to get your head around. I want this to really sink in. CBAM is not a reporting project. It's a full-blown operating model transformation. We're not just talking about filling out forms here. This is about fundamentally changing how your business operates. The companies that get this are going to win, and those that don't, well, they're going to be facing a whole lot of friction, cost, and risk down the line.
All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to reframe what CBAM really is. Then we'll dive deep into the three core pillars of this new operating model: the people, the process, and the technology. After we've covered that, we'll look at the real payoff and, what this all means for the future of global trade.
Okay, let's kick things off with that crucial mindset shift. When CBAM first hit the scene, most companies went into tactical mode, scrambling for data, trying to fill out templates. But here's the thing. CBAM isn't some task you can just bolt onto your existing setup. It's a new strategic reality.
And this really tells the whole story. On one side, you've got the reactive view, which sees CBAM as just another box-ticking ESG report. But the strategic view, it sees CBAM for what it actually is: a trade control system. Seriously, think of it like a parallel customs and tax system, but one that runs entirely on carbon data. And something that complex requires real structure, not just a bunch of cobbled-together spreadsheets. So that brings us to the very first pillar of this new model: the people. One of the biggest mistakes we're seeing companies make is just tossing CBAM over to their sustainability teams and saying, "Here, you guys handle this." But they can't. It's not what they're built for. They don't manage customs declarations or forecast carbon certificate purchases. And to handle all this, entirely new roles are starting to pop up inside these companies. We're seeing job titles like carbon data owner or supplier carbon risk manager. I mean, think about it. These jobs literally did not exist just a few years ago. And now they're absolutely essential for navigating this new world of carbon-linked financial risk. And this chart, it shows you exactly why those new roles are so critical. The risk from CBAM isn't neatly contained in one department. Nope, it's fragmented all across the organization: procurement, finance, customs, you name it. That's why the companies that are ahead of the curve are building these cross-functional governance teams to manage the whole picture together. Okay, so you've got the people sorted out. What's next? Well, with those new roles in place, the processes themselves have to change. We have to move beyond just gathering data for a report. We're entering a world of what you can only really call carbon-linked trade execution. We're talking about a complete redesign from the ground up. It has to start all the way back with procurement, baking emissions data requirements into supplier contracts. Then that data needs to be validated rigorously. From there, it has to link up with your customs systems, which then kicks off financial management of your carbon certificates. And the final step, the whole thing becomes auditable financial information. Carbon gets woven into every single step of trade. All right, so you've got the right people and you've redesigned your processes, but none of it works without the third pillar: technology. And let's be crystal clear about this. Trying to manage this level of complexity with spreadsheets, it's a train wreck waiting to happen. They just completely fall apart at scale. And here's the huge problem, the massive disconnect we see in most companies today. All their carbon data is living over here, maybe in some sustainability tool. Meanwhile, all their trade and finance data is over there in the ERP and custom systems. Under CBAM, that separation is completely, utterly unsustainable.
So what's the fix? It's what we call a robust MRV, or monitoring, reporting, and verification platform. But this is not just another ESG tool. You have to think of it as trade infrastructure. It needs things like supplier portals, validation engines, and, this is crucial, deep integration with your core systems, like your ERP and customs platforms. That's how you get real-time, carbon-adjusted visibility on everything you're importing.
Okay, this is where it all comes together. When you nail these three layers, the people, the process, and the technology, you get to the real payoff. And it's not just about dodging penalties. It's about building a genuine competitive advantage by making carbon a core part of your cost architecture. Right now, we're seeing companies fall into one of three buckets. At the bottom, you've got the reactive ones. They're just scrambling every quarter with their spreadsheets. In the middle, you've got the structured companies. They have some roles, but their systems don't talk to each other.
But the leaders, they're in that top tier, a fully integrated operating model where carbon is just part of doing business. It's embedded everywhere.
Because what happens if you don't invest in this kind of operating model? Well, the risks are huge. Yeah, sure, there are regulatory penalties. Of course, there are import delays. But the biggest risk of all is strategic. It becomes a competitiveness issue. If you're stuck in the carbon slow lane, you are going to lose business to competitors who are faster and more efficient. It's that simple. So, where is all this headed? It is so important to see that CBAM isn't the final destination. It's just the catalyst. It's the beginning of something much, much bigger, a future of fully carbon orchestrated trade. When you have a mature operating model in place, you can start asking truly strategic, game-changing questions. You can look at your supply chain through this whole new lens and ask, hey, should we switch suppliers to lower our carbon intensity? Because now that question has a direct, measurable financial outcome attached to it. And it doesn't stop there. You can start treating your carbon exposure just like any other commodity risk. Should you be hedging it? Should you build it into your financial forecasting models? I mean, these are not sustainability questions anymore. These are core C-suite business questions. And all of this boils down to one single, massive question that every leader needs to be asking themselves. It's not, are we compliant? The real question is, have we fundamentally redesigned our operating model for this new era of carbon-linked trade? So let's be perfectly clear about what success looks like here. The winners in this new world, they're not going to be the companies that are just really good at filing their reports on time. They will be the companies that truly operationalize carbon, the ones that build it into their org charts, their workflows, their digital systems, their very cost models. That is the CBAM operating model, and it's already separating the leaders from the laggards. The only real question left is, which side of that line are you going to be on?